Hey guys, it's Kay from Chaos Anonymous, and I am back today with another episode of r/MaliciousCompliance. Eat somewhere else? She didn't specify where. This story is a little long, but I thought it was really funny because despite this not being entirely malicious, it was compliance that yielded hilarious results. I hope you guys enjoy. So about a year ago in late June, I started working for a resort restaurant that also manages one of the main pools and pool bars next door. I hadn't worked in a restaurant environment beforehand, which my previous boss knew. So a few weeks after I was hired, he started scheduling me to work by the pool bar, saying it'd be an easy way for me to adjust to the job and learn new skills. He ended up being right, because I ended up learning how to be a server just by helping out the guests lounging by the pool, and the bartenders I worked with. One of the bartenders was a lady named Kiki, who will be important later in the story. Did I mention I worked outside? Let's just say that I have crazy respect for those who work outside all day during the summer. It was always hot and humid where I worked, and we didn't have many methods of staying cool. I also wasn't exactly adjusted to being on my feet 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, so my legs and feet were in pain a lot of the time. My shifts always started at 11 a.m., with lunch rush starting about half an hour afterwards, right on the dot. Orders would fly into the bar and out to their tables for nearly 2 hours, finally slowing to a stop at around 2 p.m. I'd always choose to take my lunch break, which I'm allowed to do, at this time inside the building because I'm irritable in many ways and need to recharge. At the resort I work at, there isn't really such a thing as a break room. If employees want to eat, their only options are either to eat at their stations or offices, eat at whatever fast food place they had time to go to, or eat at the employee lunchroom at the back of the main building. The bar didn't really have a place to eat where you weren't in the way or seen by customers, so I'd always choose to eat at the lunchroom. It offered free food for the staff, a place to sit, and AC, all of which I desperately needed during my break. So whenever I finished dealing with a lunch rush at the pool, which normally ended about 2 p.m., I'd go to the lunchroom, make a plate, and sit down eating and watching videos until my break was over. Well, one day, that suddenly changed. I came to the lunchroom a little later than usual one day, and the room was vacant aside from a few ladies cleaning the floors and tables. One of the ladies, who I'll call Lunch Lady, noticed me appear in the doorway, and before I could say or do anything, she exclaimed, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we're closed." I kind of jumped a little because it came as a surprise and apologized before kindly asking if I could still maybe eat there just for a few minutes. She refused, repeating that the lunchroom is closed and I'm not allowed to let anyone in here until we reopen at 4. It was 2 p.m. at the time. And if I wanted to eat, I could make a plate and take it to your office like everyone else does. I shyly explained that I worked outside by the bar, that it's difficult for me to eat outside, I get nauseous in the afternoon, and I don't know where else I could go. I asked again, even adding in that I'd clean up after myself and only need a few minutes. She refused again, said I should have come earlier, and said I could sit at a table in the hallway if I really needed a place to eat. I politely declined, to which she responded, "Well, I'm sorry, but I can't let you eat here. You can eat anywhere else but here. If I made an exception for one person, I'd have to do it for everyone, and then I'd get in trouble. Do you understand?" I just quietly nodded and excused myself. I'm really not a confrontational person and would rather crawl under a rock than argue with someone. And at the time, she did say it was a rule, so what was I going to do about it? I ended up talking to a few of the servers I worked with, and one told a story about a confrontation she had had with Lunch Lady the other day. She explained how she wasn't feeling well and wanted to rest in the lunchroom for a moment, just to calm down and relax, but was completely denied by Lunch Lady. She explained how she didn't have anywhere else to go and it'd only be for a moment, but Lunch Lady kept insisting that it was against the rules, even when the servers started tearing up. So it was pretty clear I wasn't going to argue. I didn't think to talk to my bosses about it either because in my mind, they'd probably just tell me that they can't do anything about it and I should just go there earlier too. So I tried my best to get there on time, but due to the lunch rush, I wasn't always so lucky. Most times I was too late, but other times, even when I was on time, they'd kick us out right at 2 p.m. whether we were finished or not. I tried for weeks to get there at a decent time, but wasn't so lucky. So I thought, well, she said I could eat anywhere, right? I've seen employees eat wherever they wanted to, even in storage rooms, so I thought wherever I chose wouldn't matter, right? So I found a comfy, secluded wooden bench in the female employee bathroom. To be more accurate, though, it was the locker room the bench was in, but that locker room was connected to the bathroom, so everyone considered it to be the bathroom. I didn't really care too much, as long as not many people saw me, which during 2 p.m. was pretty common. Even when people did see me, no one asked. For the first few months I worked, I didn't really talk too much of the staff outside my department, so most people who saw me ignored me. I did this for about a month before someone finally noticed. This is when Kiki appears in the story. Up to this point, I always felt somewhat intimidated by her because she always looked frustrated and didn't look too patient with new hires. But after this, I started realizing that on the inside, she's a kind of motherly woman who was only stressed out because of her job. Kiki was heading to the bathroom and was just passing by the bench I was sitting at before she noticed me, then the plate of food on my lap. She stopped in her tracks and her expression turned from tired focus to a bizarre kind of confusion. "What are you doing?" she asked in a quiet, confused voice. "Eating lunch," I replied casually. "Why are you eating here? Why not eat in the lunchroom?" I explained the conversation I had with Lunch Lady and what she told me. Kiki's face got red. It was red already, but now it was visibly getting redder and redder, like a sunburn slapped her face. I noticed this along with the awkward silence and added that, "I'm okay with this though, I've done it for a few weeks already." That wasn't the best thing to say because she said, "No, this isn't okay. Pick up your stuff and we're going to talk to this lady." I sheepishly did as I was told and just followed her. Lunch Lady was there, as she always was, cleaning up a dark lunchroom on her own, and we came around the corner. Kiki started arguing with her about why she wouldn't let one person into the lunchroom, why she wouldn't even compromise, how the rules are crud, and then said, "Did you even know that this girl was eating in the bathroom for a month because you told her she couldn't eat here?" Lunch Lady's face looked like a mixture of confusion, shock, and pity, but she kept explaining that if I made one exception, I'd have to make more. Kiki then noticed 2 things. The first was that the lunchroom was completely dark and almost empty aside from one lady in the corner, which was the second thing she noticed. No one was really lining up to get into the closed, dark lunchroom. The lady was on her phone, but then started looking over at us as the conversation continued. "What's the problem with letting one person eat here for just 30 minutes? We're both working outside and we deserve some time inside, so why can't you make an exception here? If cleaning is the issue, then she," referring to me, "can clean up after herself, and she's clearly old enough to know how to do it." 22 at the time. "And you've already got one person in here already, so what's the harm in one more?" Lunch Lady was about to argue again until the lady in the corner chimed in. "It's okay, Lunch Lady. She's free to sit in here and eat." So that's what I did. I sat, ate, talked to the lady in the corner, cleaned, and left when I was done. The lady who was there turned out to be one of the managers of the resort, and she was very nice and warm to me. The next day, I wasn't turned away, or the next day, or the next week. I was never told to eat anywhere else again after that. Lunch Lady, who used to patrol the room long after it closed, wasn't there as much anymore after that. She wasn't fired, I saw her much later, but I suspect management decided to adjust the rules. I didn't need to go there after summer had ended and the pool bar closed, so I never found out how much had changed. I still find it funny how I just followed the rules, not trying to be malicious, and ended up proving a point regardless. I'm a bit more comfortable with confrontation than I was before now. Go Kiki! Oh my goodness. So you complied. Kiki said, nah, this is not happening. And that's what I used to work at a restaurant, and a lot of times like the bartenders were the best people. They seemed kind of scary sometimes, but like they knew how to throw down, but they also would throw down for the reason of someone who needed someone to throw down for them, if you understand what I'm saying. Kind of like Kiki, just she kind of fits the stereotype of what I experienced as a server, interacting with bartenders, so that was pretty cool. The old brush off. I was an assistant wipe at the pool club. We guys were tasked with wiping tables, chairs, floors, and on occasion, we wiped paint onto fences, walls, and floors, and in the preseason, the swimming pool and its sidewalks as well. Eventually, I was promoted to Wipe Master General and got to help plan the maintenance disasters we perpetuated upon the pool club. One of the reasons I had been promoted was that when I painted, I moved along, giving the impression that I was working faster than the others, who would paint as far as their arms would reach without getting up. My friend Freddie was tall and had quite a reach, so he was able to paint a large area while seated, but got yelled at for sitting and doing nothing by the do-nothing bosses we had. I advised him to move along when he painted, so that the many bosses we had would think he was working harder. One day I sent Freddie to paint the back of the 4-foot by 40-foot wall behind the pool. From the main area, I saw his head and the occasional elbow over the wall moving along nicely. When he had worked almost to the end, I stopped to admire his work, but only the beginning was done? He explained that he had run out of paint right away, but he did move along. You painted the wall with a dry brush? Yes, but I did move along, just like you told me to. The paint shed was about 10 feet away, but he didn't want to get up to walk over there and get more paint. It all seemed reasonable to him, but I couldn't believe it. Was it malicious? I'll never know. I moved right along. That's what you said to do. Oh my god. That is fantastic. I think the funniest part is that OP was also fooled into believing that he was moving right along nicely with, actually doing things. And that was his idea to make him look like he was moving faster than he was, but with a dry brush. I used to work here. Now solve your own problems. A little over a decade ago, I worked for the local hardware outfit as the storeman/stores manager. I took the job because it was local, paid okay, and was supposed to be relatively stress-free. Unfortunately, the reality of it was that the assistant manager, Colin, was a D-head with an inferiority complex who had it in for me because I was more qualified than he was. Although I had absolutely no interest in climbing the corporate ladder or taking his job, the job itself was overtasked and understaffed, and things were only getting busier as there was a building boom happening in the area at the time. As a result, I quickly ended up being run off my feet every day, trying to keep up with the constant influx of goods and outgoing orders. To make matters worse, the overall manager, John, decided to reassign my 2 offsiders as delivery staff, leaving me on my own. When I protested, I was told to solve my own problems. I somehow kept up with the workload, but knowing this was not going to work in the long run, I continued in my attempts to get more staff in my area. Even just 1 offsider would have made a huge difference. I tried reasoning with John, saying, "What if I get sick or injured? How will you get the orders done then?" His solution was that he would have some of the casual staff from the front retail area fill in if that happened. I laughed in his face and suggested that they could not find their own rears using both hands. Probably not the best way to handle things. Once again, I was told to solve my own problems. Okay then, fine. I will do just that. The situation continued becoming more difficult each week. The incoming goods were increasing in volume to keep up with demand, think 2 semi-trailers per day, and as outgoing orders were to take priority, the incoming goods began piling up. Colin decided to rear his ugly head and make a fuss about stock not being checked in and stored on time, and in one of our more robust discussions, I seriously considered rearranging his face and told him so. He decided to go on an early lunch, run away, and hid from me in his office for the rest of the week. That was the day I realized I need to get out of this place. As for solving my problems, well, obviously, I was looking for a new job. I answered an ad for a correctional officer and attended a meeting for applicants, then sat the psych tests, interviews, and was finally accepted for the training to begin in 1 month. Perfect timing. The next Monday, I walked into John's office and gave 2 weeks' notice. John was absolutely appalled that I would consider leaving such a good job. He tried offering me a raise of $1,000 per year. I laughed and said my starting pay was already $15,000 more than I was getting here, and walked out. Now, you would think a smart manager would immediately take steps to cover my position and begin training a replacement. Nope. Nothing happened for the next week and a half until my last Thursday. John finally showed up with a replacement, some entirely forgettable teenager who plainly had no chance of keeping up. I trained him as best as I could, and the next day said my goodbyes. 2 months later, I walked in as a customer, flush with my new job money. The place was an utter mess. There was crap everywhere, unprocessed goods still in sealed boxes, pallets of sheeting just dumped in the truck yard, and no one could find anything. The original guy I trained was nowhere to be seen, and 4 new young guys with haunted-looking faces were madly scrambling about, trying to sort their crap out. No one knew where anything was, where anything goes, or even how to do a basic invoice check. Total disaster, which brought a warm glow to my evil black told-you-so heart. Upon seeing me, John quickly pulled me aside and asked if I can help out and show the new guys what to do. I took great pleasure in reminding him that I had repeatedly warned him this could happen, and that not only did I no longer work here, but that he will have to, and I quote, solve your own problems. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Beautiful malicious compliance. It's like a type of revenge that he didn't even try to, like, get revenge, you know what I mean? The I told you so-ness is just oozing. It's just so wonderful. Also, do you have any dignity left when you have to ask someone who used to be your employee, who is coming in as a customer to your disheveled workplace that you're supposed to be, like, managing? You're gonna ask them to come help you train people? Are you kidding me right now? Like, I don't think that's even legal, because how would you pay this person who's not on your payroll anymore? There's so much here. Wow. That's yikes. I'm glad OP is in a much better job now, because that's a whole lot of yikes. Anyway, that is going to wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and drop a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Really quickly, I'd like to thank my patrons. Up on the screen, you should see my face palmers and my crazy gaze. Thank you all so much for supporting me in that way. If you're interested in becoming a patron, checking out the original posts from today's video, or sending me an email for possible inclusion in a future video, all of that information is in the description box, so be sure to check it out. And I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!